Hello everybody, welcome back to 10 Minute Reviews. I'm Jason, bringing you today's episode. My fuzzy little co-star Freya is right here, although it doesn't look like she's going to dive bomb me today. And like I said, we're bringing you today's video. As always guys, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're just a small family channel, love to talk about books. We'd appreciate any support you guys might want to give us. Outside of that, check the links down below for links to today's authors and books. I got you, fuzzy. Our Discord channel, our Patreon channel, thank you very much, and anything else we can think of. So today is another author feature video suggested by one of our viewers every time I do one of my little roll-up videos. So I want to talk about author Dennis Taylor, who I discussed briefly in the video on science fiction authors you may not have heard of. So we're going to feature him today. So these might be a little bit shorter. So Dennis Taylor. Dennis Taylor is a science fiction author known pretty much for one thing, but damn, he did that one thing great. Dennis Taylor writes the Bobbyverse. It's a silly name for a fantastic series. It is absolutely incredible. I initially thought it was just a trilogy, and I think he intended it to be a trilogy, but then had a few more ideas pop into his head. So the fourth book came out not too long ago and was the best of the trilogy, which is amazing because the trilogy is incredible, or best of the trilogy, the fourth book. Now all of a sudden I'm doing some so long thanks for all the fish kind of stuff. Best in the series. Book 4 was best in the series, which is incredible because the trilogy was phenomenal. So the Bobbyverse is near far future, because it's kind of hard to say, but it starts out kind of near future. We use the concept of cryogenic freezing. Concept of cryogenic freezing is sort of the basis of, or at least the beginning of the book. So you have a character that was cryogenically frozen, and then while they were frozen, laws changed, and as science progressed, and eventually they did get to the point where they could not yet revive them, but could map their brains, map their consciousness, map their personalities. Well, at the same time, laws have been passed now where they're basically owned. They're just property. Their bodies, their frozen consciousness, everything is owned. It's the property of companies. So we have the main character, Bob, that is brought, dies, cryogenically frozen, then all of a sudden is alive, but not in a human body. And he's a science fiction nerd like many of us, and is basically revived to be a scout. Humanity needs to start colonizing. We have enough issues on our planet, and if we want the species to survive, we need to colonize. But in order to colonize, we have to scout, and we need help. And they decide that AIs aren't going to do it, so why don't we just use an actual intelligence that we own. So they take Bob, they put him inside a spaceship that is able to replicate and scout and build and just do all kinds of crazy stuff. It's a human consciousness crossed with an AI, because you get computing power and therefore the ability to at least within your computer, slow your perception of time. You can do 100 years of thinking in 10 minutes if you wanted to. And again, self-replicating, able to build, improve itself, and again, faster than light travel, in a set to go out and scout. Now, one of the things that I think is pretty cool is that Dennis Taylor doesn't use the whole concept of nanotechnology, but uses something that's probably going to be a lot more realistic as far as construction and the future, and even self-replicating. 3D printers. 3D printers, which we already have. More likely to 3D print than to use gray goo to colonize. And Bob is able to copy himself, because again, while it's his consciousness, he's still also held within a computer. So as he builds himself out, as he goes out exploring and he wants to explore more areas, he needs to communicate. Maybe he needs to have one colony scout ship of himself help a colony go to some place that he has scouted out and help them build up and help them survive, while he also still needs to explore. So he uses his 3D printers to build more ships and build more computers and computing power, and then copy himself over. But what he discovers is there's a personality drift, a personality shift. Now in book 4 it starts to be explained a little bit, but in the beginning, in the original trilogy, there's no idea why, but they all end up with their individual personalities. And as these generations go, if they came from Bob, straight from Bob, they have some personality drift, but for the most part, they tend to see things the same way. They just have their own little quirks. Now, if they're second generation from Bob, then they're still a lot like Bob, but they have a few more quirks. And then as the further generations go, they drift more and more and more apart from each other, till eventually they're basically their own society. At one point, there's probably tens of thousands, if not 100,000 of them spread around throughout the galaxy. Some are exploring, some are not. And a lot of the technological advancement that has occurred for humanity has actually occurred thanks to the Bobs. That they themselves did it because, again, they can slow their own perception of time. They have this massive computing power, and they are able to, those that have certain predilection towards science are able to just run experiments and think and learn and experiment and figure out massive jumps in technology, which is why I say this is both near future and far future, because at a certain point humanity has multiple colonies now, and the Bobs have really expanded out and done some pretty crazy and incredible and really cool things with their technology. While at the same, so this is an awesome science fiction series, while at the same time it's absolutely hilarious, because again, the original Bob was a nerd. He was a science fiction nerd. It's an absolute riot, and the individual, the quirkier clones of his, the dialogue is hilarious. The pop culture references are a riot, and just the way they think and the way they do things, absolutely hilarious. It's an incredible series. Incredible series. You guys definitely need to check out Dennis Taylor and his Bobbyverse. It's amazing. Thank you everybody for watching. We will catch you guys next time. Bye now.